Welcome to July session of ILA and Kelp HR joint webinar series. We conduct these every month, and this month's topic is something that is very interesting as an alternate yet very important industry that we all have around us, but it doesn't have so much regulation around sexual harassment, and that is sexual harassment in media and hospitality. So today we are going to before I get into the details about the topic itself, I would like to start with an intro about Indian Lawyers Association and Kelp HR. And is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the Indian Lawyers Association is a voluntary professional organization for the legal professionals of India. ILA has been formed with vision to shape the future of the legal profession throughout India. And as an essential ally and advocate for members of the legal profession, ILA is committed to enable opportunities for the quality of professional development and support enhancement in legal profession delivery of justice, and also to facilitate effective law reforms. And Kelp has been established in 2013. It's a forward thinking organization committed to revolutionizing workplaces into safe, happy, and inclusive environments with an unwavering belief that employee well being is integral to the organizational success. Kelp endeavors to set new standards in workplace safety. Kelp is a pioneer in simplifying the legal complexities in prevention of sexual harassment at workplace, PoSH, and along the way, we aim to demystify the less understood subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is called DE&I popularly. So we have a very interesting and esteemed panel today with us. And I'm really excited to introduce each one of them. And we have Surabhi with us. Surabhi Chowdhury is a Delhi-based filmmaker with over 7 years of experience. Beginning her career as a graphic designer before transitioning into film, she's worked with the Jamun Collective and collaborated with documentary filmmaker Vikramaditya Singh in roles of director, producer, and AD. And she's also documented projects for NGOs in India and Nepal and covered really prestigious film festivals like the Serendipity Arts Festival, Magnetic Fields, and her diverse portfolio includes films for Royal Enfield, NBA India, Nike, to say a few names. And she's also worked with music videos for independent artists as well as short documentaries for international news channels like Al Jazeera. And she's currently freelancing as a filmmaker and working on her independent feature length documentary, which we'll all await after this session. Really looking forward to knowing more from you, Surbi, on this. And we have with us Qais. Qais Husein owns and operates the Flying Goat Cafe in Goa. I don't know if any of you all have visited, but it's a very vibrant space. And he has worked for over 10 years in hospitality and related fields. He has previously worked with Woke Hostel, Summer by the Hostel Crowd, and Hopi Pola in the hospitality sector. He's also briefly worked with Glitch Delhi within the media industry. He's an alumnus of Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. Kes combines his education and practical experience to manage Flying Goat, which hosts a wide range of high-end artistic events. And he follows his values of sustainability while maintaining all of these, or while wearing all these many hats. Now we have Smita, who I can't stress enough on how excited I am to have her on the panel. Smita is our beloved CEO and co-founder, and She's she's passionate about the PoSH and DNI and mental wellness at Kelp HR, and an experienced HR professional with demonstrated history of working in the information technology, manufacturing, and services industry. She's a postgraduate HRD from Narsi Monji, and her she has 25 plus years of corporate experience in the areas of employee relations, training, development, grievance redressal, and whatnot. And she is an alumni of IIMB. And I am very proud to also accept and like, say that she has mentored a lot of us also to understand more about sexual harassment at workplace and create a dynamic lens to it, which goes beyond just the law and just the legal reforms. So a lot has been learned by many of us who work at Kelp from Smita, and she continues to inspire a team of all women company, and she is a wonderful entrepreneur amongst us. And now moving to what we are going to discuss today, I would like to bring some background of the topic from whatever we can understand from. And today's agenda would be mostly free flowing, wherein Kes and Surbhi will be sharing their on ground industry experience, and Smita would be setting the tone from industry expert on creating safe workplaces, on what can be done, what are the solutions that we are looking, and what is the problem here. And that being said, I just would like to brief a little bit on the topic. Sexual harassment in the media and hospitality has been a significant issue over the past decade. And we see a lot of rise in the complaints, which does not mean that movements like Me Too have ignited so many conversations on workplace safety in these diverse fields. And these are mostly male dominated fields that women are trying to come forward as artists and also people who have a claim to safe workplaces themselves, that how are they navigating this kind of a field. And the fact that more number of cases are coming through or more people are talking about it does not mean that industry is getting worse. It just means that times are coming when people are speaking up against it. And at Kelp, we have also observed that only a few companies truly commit to creating harassment-free workplaces, especially in these industries. And it comes with its own resource and cost analysis that people claim to ignore when it comes to PoSH compliances. So the freelance nature and gig culture prevalent in these sections often lead to a disconnect with workplace behaviors and safety standards. So, in today's discussion, we will delve into the specific challenges faced by individuals working in these spaces. We'll also receive expert advice, and we'll see how people themselves working in the industries can navigate these workplaces, and also what are the effective policies, implementation strategies, and problem solving that one can achieve through uh, navigating these fields. And sorry, yeah, so that's about it. So I think we can get started on the panel discussion now. And I will be posing my first question. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. And my first question would be to ask, maybe we can start with Kes. And what do you think that client facing and customer facing people, how do they face challenges within workplace safety? Like, even though if the company has some measures or not, but you do have like women who are probably client and customer facing. So let's begin with the problems that they may face in the workplace.
I mean, hospitality as such is a very casual environment to begin with. So, you even if you maintain a professional situation, your all your interactions are an informal interaction today. So it gets very difficult for staff as well as in companies to put in a lot of hard set rules because the boundaries are kind of blurry when it comes to these things. The alcohol is flowing. Situations are very different. Like your workplace is a party. So it gets more difficult to create those boundaries, but it also gives us an opportunity to be innovative and find smarter solutions within the space segment of hospitality to combat these. So yeah, uh, that is what, like, there are many different things which take place on a day-to-day basis. For your, if we start with the staff aspect of things, creating a simple redressal method and hearing out the staff and trying to do more preventive action before a problem arises is the one of the key steps, I feel, in terms of working within the for your employees. Just to give you a case in point, one of my female staff got a note, like one person had left a little note for her after the customer had left the venue. So it's slightly inappropriate in nature. And when it came to us, there's nothing one can do because the person who is accused, we don't know them. It's a one-time customer, first-time visitor. They have left. So what, as a company, our first response was to talk to the employee, see whether they are okay or not, how uncomfortable they are. Post that, we put a red flag out saying that if this guy does come in again, we will move her off the floor. We will not allow too much of direct interaction between the individual and this, because it was not a very overtly sexualized note, or it was not something very actionable worthy. It was more of a warning cause situation, I would say, if you look at it from a corporate perspective. So we had decided that if he does come in again, we will remove her off the floor for that given period of time and allow someone else to take on that table. For the customer's perspective, it's simply being, again, watchful. You notice the person's discomfort. The idea is to be preventive in nature, where you identify a problem before it really occurs. Redressal is usually kick the person out of the space. So that is usually a standard operating process which goes in, that there is anyone feels someone is just like causing a problem, the person is asked to leave. Depending on the severity of the situation, we either ask them to pay the bill or not. Like if we just want them out, we want them out.
Right. Interesting. Okay. That brings me to my question to, it's interesting that there are all these creative things that people are doing, but I would also bring it back to how much PoSH compliance is happening in the hospitality, and that will be something we'll touch upon later. But bringing this to this brings me to the question to Surabhi, that what does she think is the existing problem or challenges that are being faced by people in media industry currently with workplace safety? Because the gig culture and the freelance nature, like we mentioned, like it creates specific challenges for especially people working with production houses or independently. So I would like you to elaborate upon the problem statement there.
Hi, everyone. So I think the challenges right now that are coming about are inappropriate behavior. It could be, within while you're shooting, within the crew. It could be outside of the crew that you're working in. And I think that there isn't always a legal team that can advise people in case something of this nature happens. Not with all the productions, especially the kind of productions that I work in, which are much smaller in scale. The budgets are also small. In fact, legal teams are not even budgeted for. So in these kinds of situations, if something happens, which is, if there's a sexual harassment case within the crew, no one knows where to go, and nobody knows who and what action has to be taken in this kind of a situation. It's mostly word of mouth. It's mostly like, you go to the most senior person within the crew if something like this happens. But even that person, if they're oblivious to what the next step is after something like this happens, is a very big challenge, I feel. And I think that in a bigger, like in the bigger industries like Bollywood and even the crews working for OTT platforms, the Malayalam film industry, the Tamil film industry, the industries in West Bengal, and I'm talking about the big crews, the big productions. They have a legal team and advisory team that can make them aware about these acts, make them aware about the repercussions to these kinds of misconduct and sexual harassment cases that happen. But within smaller crews, within smaller productions, very difficult for people to even know about these things. So that's, I think, a big challenge, because at the end of the day, I think, it's your conscience also as a person working in a team, that what is my boundary with my peer, with my colleague. But if the person doesn't know and has no idea that there are any repercussions, they can do whatever they want. And there's no factor, sort of stopping them from doing those things. And that it could be a whole lot of things, whole lot of things. I mean, it's very similar to what you've seen in the Me Too movement that has happened in the media abroad. It's probably as bad or even worse over here. It just doesn't it doesn't get reported that much at all.
Can I step in here?
Yeah,
Because
I was just going to ask you to step in and also talk about boundaries and consent, on how that can be navigated within, as a person who's dealt with these cases. So I would like you to also input that after you.
Sure. So I heard Qais and I heard Surabhi also, right? They're talking about industry, which is smaller, less than 10 employees. So first and foremost, I am not sure how many owners of smaller organization, which has less than 10 employees, even know that every working woman is covered under this law. Okay, that's the thumb rule. What does that mean? Even a house help who comes, even a vegetable vendor who's a woman, even a security at your residential complex who could be a woman, a gig artist, I mean, person who performs, or a small time cafe employee working in there, everybody is covered. Okay, that is the first and foremost. A lot of people do not know. Okay, that is first. So 2013 law very clearly states that in India, every working woman is covered under this law. That's one. Second, more than 10 employees, there is a requirement that we create an IC. Okay, we very well understand that less than 10 employees, we cannot have an IC. But I'm not sure how many such employers even know that there is an LC which sits under every district in our country. So under every district, there is an local complaints committee, and everybody should have their numbers, their contact details handy, right? So I heard Surabhi and I heard Qais also saying that we do not know what to do. Actually, there is a platform. Not only their numbers, but we have something called a she box, right? Where you can communicate. I know sometimes people say it's a black hole and we are not sure if it goes, something will come out of it. But there are platforms which are available. And trust me, LCC is quite functional across. Yeah. So these are some things that owners or small-time employers should know. Small-time meaning people who employ less number of people. So that is first. And creating an education to all these employees about their rights, responsibilities is also important. Having said that, and M brought a very eminent point, that what is consent and boundary. Unfortunately, in our schools and colleges, we are not taught about it. And I heard Qais and Surabhi saying that our organizations are so unstructured, alcohol is flowing, it is a very casual environment. So drawing a boundary becomes so difficult, okay? But same is the case with a house help, same is the case with the vegetable vendor. We will have to start thinking, and I heard you all saying that you all have some creative thought process, that how do we bring in that aspect that when a person is working, that's their workplace, right? So conversation of consent and boundary should happen on day-to-day basis. People should understand that when I'm saying yes with excitement, it means a yes, and anything other than that is a no, right? People should be able to draw their boundaries very clearly. And it is not only physical boundaries, it's also mental, emotional boundaries. and should be able to communicate that. How much of these conversation trainings are we doing? Currently, we do not talk about it. So people are very oblivious of the fact that what does consent really mean? What are the boundaries? How can we draw it? How can we communicate it? On the other side, being sensitive about the other person's boundaries, right? There are people who take advantage of other person's boundaries because that insensitivity is all around. This is okay. Okay. The boundary is very fluid or it is non-existent. I can step in, step out the way I want. But I think we should start having those conversations as employers in the organization. It should start from top, right? If we want to create a culture where people should be able to say, I understand my boundary, I know how to draw it, I know how to communicate it, and I am sensitive about other person's boundary. If you start not only preaching, but also practicing. I've also noticed that people preach something and practice something else, but that is not how it works. You have to preach and practice it accordingly. And when they see you doing it, there will be a ripple effect. So that is something that I would wanted to put a foundation on our conversation. Are you expecting anything more in this piece from me? Okay.
No, you can continue also.
No,
You can just finish.
I am good. So this is what I wanted to share to set a foundation of our conversation for today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that context. And also, there was one more thing that came to me when Surabhi was speaking, that as a person who is working freelance, I think a lot is there, like even as a, like, you can always ask for these kind of, you should ideally start with asking these questions before taking up a project, that is there a contract? Are we signing a contract? Because sometimes when we don't sign contracts and when we are even though there are provisions, even if you don't sign contract, merely you walking into someone's workplace protects you and they have to take care of you. But that being said, I think some of these questions need to be asked to the employer as soon as you get the project, that can I sign a contract here? Is there a freelance agreement that I'm signing? What are my, and also what if something, how is my safety taken care of in such and such situations? Because I think I see a lot of people who are very articulate individuals who are freelancing, and even they should be able to ask for their rights, even if it's not clear or defined by the other party. So they will also get that idea, okay, I'm getting this question, so I have to create a provision for this person. So just to say that, how are we creating that awareness from our end while we are approaching all of these spaces? That being said, I would like to also address this question of because we were talking about PoSH compliance, and everybody comes under this act, and also people more than 10 employees must have PoSH. So I wanted to pose this question again to Smita, that how much do you see, and also to everyone else, that do you see any compliance actually happening in the industry? The law says that they have to, but is there any reality in this compliance that needs to happen, and how much is the balance of it all?
Yeah, so very good question. And as per law, this came in 2013. We are 11 years down the line. Check in the box, larger organization. I see that they have done something. But I'll give you an example. I was reviewing some media industry, and I realized that there is this Satyajit Academy, which has so beautifully laid down their policy. They have listed the IC members on the website. But if you look on the other side, there are multiple organizations which are larger, big, employing more people, are not very clear about it. They are evading. For example, today, if I have to look up for any IC members online for a particular production company, it is not available there. Why are we shying away from that? Right? Why are we not putting it out there? It is important. So I won't, compliance is a big question mark, right? I also reviewed that there was after the Me Too event that happened, and India also got touched, and there were multiple people who were named, right? But they're back in business. What has happened after that? is a big question mark. What happened to those cases, right? There were some very famous names called out there, right? And I also saw some initiatives which came out was like distributing pepper spray, right? I was like, distributing pepper spray, is that what an initiative of hashtag Me Too event should happen? Shouldn't it be more deeper? We all heard about casting couch. We heard about multiple things that happen in industry. Why isn't there a discussion? Simply why there isn't an IC names published under your website, right? So this is my question I really want to ask. And I also work with some media industry who are very serious in what they want to do, right? They really want to create that safe workplace. And I'm very proud to be attached to those organizations because they are bringing in those aspects, saying that this is a safe culture. And if people are not following it, we do not want perpetrators in the system. And they are very clear about it. But having said that, there is a lot of work to be done. Coming to hospitality industry, I'm sorry, whenever I walk into any of these food chains or anything, I do not see a poster. I do not see a poster which calls out IC members. And unfortunately, there was a conversation that I had with this one of the companies that why don't we put up the posters there? So they are like, no, it is in our staff room. But what they fail to understand is even the visitor who comes in, the customer who comes in can complain of sexual harassment. Now, will they go to your staff room to find out who are the IC members? They wouldn't, right? Why are we shying away? I get things like it aesthetically doesn't look okay. But trust me, that's not something that I would want to take for an answer. So why are we not out there saying that we are a safe space, not only for our employees, but we are a safe space for everybody who walks in? It's just that little thing which will help me create that confidence that I can walk in as a customer and have a happy meal here. I understand that it is a very informal space, but it's about creating that environment where everybody feels safe. So that's that little shift that we want to do. And over a period of time, I think there will be a bigger shift, but we have
Yeah,
to start
that
there.
actually is a very interesting input. Now I want people to bring out actually the reality of like Qais mentioned at the beginning of the session that it's more of a party life, right? So I get it that it is a party life, and I totally understand that it comes from that space. But so because of the work life blurring, like, a lot of people I see in the industry work for 12 hours straight, and like they're constantly just working all the time, and they don't have any like when they're working, they're working. And when they're partying. And sometimes they're doing both together. So when that is happening, a lot of work life boundaries get blurred. It is not as demarcated as other fields where you go to work and you come back and got a professional environment. So I want to ask you guys this question, that how do you navigate what is the ground reality of this blurring of work life boundaries, and what really happens in this like places to chill where people are actually working. So what is the reality of it? Kes and Surbi, you guys can pick this question.
The reality of it is basically there are a lot of unhappy people constantly working and overworking themselves. But also, it what it becomes is that there are many boundaries. Like for women employees, I would say it's actually a really tough battle because they have to deal with customers and issues there as well as internal team situations. Now, when you're dealing with a customer, there is a lot of casualness, and like especially in places like Goa, where the mentality is what we all know is assumed to be. People fail to see that this is a workspace for a lot of people. But also at the same time, when it comes to your colleagues, people you're working with, it's 12 hours to sometimes 16 hours on heavy days that you are literally standing side by side with this person 6 days a week. So it it starts getting blurry there also. So there is for employees as well as employers, it's actually a little bit more difficult because the hours are different and the situation is different and the back rooms are a little bit, unless you have higher, like larger establishments would have bifurcated rest areas and staff rooms. Smaller organizations sometimes have difficulty in finding place to put their own saman, so staff always get pushed to the corner at the like on a regular basis because they are flexible or assumed to be flexible to a certain extent, especially the work environment. Yeah, so in a sense, it is a little bit murky, but there is a lot of different things which we have to take into account and also create a space for employers. So to talk about what Smita said, I agree that I've honestly been in the hospitality space for a very long time, and it's only fairly recently that I've actually started understanding that workplace sexual harassment actually exists. Can like norms have to be present for a cafe or a restaurant space. I plead guilt there in that situation of ignorance, but I am now working with a lot of different professionals to bring in these situations where we have employment contracts, and because we don't have a 10-member plus team right now, an IC is not required, but we are still setting up an internal form of our own version of an IC, because more than a mandated requirement, workplace employees will be better and happier when there is a safer work environment for them. So I don't really see it being too much of a legal requirement because I fall under the 10, but I think it's, I mean, as an individual, I know what,
Yeah,
I can only
mention
imagine
zero
what it
tolerance.
is.
Right.
Yeah,
I
I can
hear
only
you.
imagine what others would go through. So I would try to create a place where they don't have to deal with it.
Right. I think having zero tolerance policies is definitely a good start to begin with. And that's what, again, the mindset is still that I don't fall under the category I am under 10. So even though it's a slip or it's a genuine, honest statement, but that is what it looks like out there, right?
I
So
know, I completely agree.
it's like you do fall under the category. Everyone falls under PoSH. But the thought process comes in that, oh, I have to set up compliance after 10 employees increase. And also, it's interesting that, especially in hospitality, even though you have less than 10 employees, the interaction with people on a daily basis is much more. It's not just 10 people you interact with. If I'm working in a cafe, for example, I will talk to um, 20 customers that day. So my
Right,
interaction is at workplace is not limited to less than 10 people. So it's very
exactly.
interesting to see how this pans out. And we'll also think on what can people with less than 10 employees do. That being said, I think I would like to also hear from Surabhi on the reality of it all, like how are these movements impacting, or what is happening when the work life blurring is happening. So you can take for it.
I think that the movement has impacted to some extent, but it was impacting when it had begun. Now it's gone back to square one, and I don't think that people are um very scared anymore again regarding any kind of misconduct that happens. And in the film industry also, like, there is an aspect of when after you've finished shooting for a week, or you spend time with, say, maybe it could be 3 people, it could be a crew of like 30 people, and you spend like 4 days with them. Everybody starts talking about, like, everyone's family and stuff, and they're all partying together. And at those kinds of spaces, it's also sexual uh, like misconduct doesn't have to be physical. It can also be something mental. So these kinds of things are very, very common. And when I say mental, it can be something where you're almost manipulating employees to um or like gaslighting them into thinking that they shouldn't be dressed a certain way, or they shouldn't be going and talking to certain people if they're not comfortable. I have been told many times that don't wear shorts on set, but I see all the boys wearing shorts. Why am I not allowed to wear shorts? Like these kinds of things keep happening in this industry. And the thing is, it's not even about being equal and not equal. It's like, you know, if you are in your limits, then you will be okay. Then you won't be able to come and complain to us about something happening within the crew, someone coming and saying something to you, or someone being, you know, inappropriate with you.
On that.
Like I said, you know, even after, if we all go out, like with my colleagues, if I go out, you know, for a drink or two or whatever it is, often this has happened where, you know, someone has said something to somebody, it's been inappropriate, or touched somebody in an inappropriate way. And there, and when the person comes out and says, you know, that this person was he wasn't behaving well with me, this was weird, and was made to feel uncomfortable, that person can also say that, oh, but she was also drunk, she was also enjoying it, she never said anything to me. And these kinds of things, like no matter the Me Too movement happening, these things haven't changed. They haven't. And like I said, I think it's also because the repercussions aren't in existence, you know, especially with the kind of crews and stuff that I'm working with. Nobody knows, you know, at least at restaurants and all, you can have a poster that says that these are the members, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to know. With crews, like smaller crews, there's nothing. I mean, the most I do is I mention that nobody can be inappropriate on location with anybody. The minute I see that happening, you are outside the set. You have to leave. You cannot be a part, no matter who you are. I don't care about your position. But I can't do that everywhere. That's only when I have some authority in that situation.
Yeah.
As a freelancer, like you said, even if I ask for a contract and I try to, you know, tell them the details of everything that I need to know, especially about these kinds of things, about my security, about my, you know, what will happen if such a situation has occurred, they're not going to work with me. They're going to be like, this person is asking for too much, let's just move on to the next. And it's sad, but this becomes sort of a situation for women where we are made to feel that we are very difficult to work with. कितना complain करते हैं, ये नहीं करो, ऐसे नहीं बात कर सकते, वैसे नहीं बोल सकते. But I don't think that that's the case. I think it's just that the repercussions aren't in existence, and they're not really, no one knows about the repercussions of something like this happening, which is why when we try to make people be aware that this is not appropriate or that is not okay, we are made to feel like, you know, then don't work with us. This is how it is. This is how the industry has been for years. You need to learn, you need to know how to function.
So, Surabhi, that is such an interesting point that you have drawn, and that makes me think that can we form a women's team, or all women come together? Like in corporates, there are these women's club. So in the industry of your kind, can all women join hands and form a kind of a club where they support each other, right? What happens is, as you rightly said, that if one person doesn't adhere to that, this is the norm, and I'll move on to somebody else. But if they are part of this club and group and they're saying, okay, this is the ethos, then those people, for them to counter a group will be very, very difficult, right? So it's an idea out in large there, that can we create some unity amongst this community, and be like create a sisterhood which will counter such behaviors, which will stand up, support each other. What happens is, and as you rightly said, it's a small team, you feel lonely, you don't feel supported. You will feel, okay, if I say no. And there was a very famous case actually in Bollywood itself, where one woman was constantly being asked for sexual favors, saying that I will give you a job, and she was adhering to it. And there was a point of breakdown where she said, nothing doing, and she actually went to the extreme of setting somebody else to kill the other person. So it went to that level, and so this person whom she alleged of sexual harassment was let go of on bail, but this woman who actually has contracted somebody to kill this person, and all that happened hodgepodge. So the victim was further victimized. While that thought process is also wrong, that you go to that extreme, of course we shouldn't. But I think somewhere she felt that there is no way out, right?
Yeah,
And
because that's what it's also mentally you get so tortured if someone is manipulating you so much.
yes,
And then as a person who's just about, say, coming into the industry, for them it's like, it's life or death at that situation. Like if I don't do this, then I won't be able to make it. So yeah, I think it is very difficult for people to navigate through various forms of manipulations and stuff, especially with people in power.
yeah.
There's a power dynamic that is still exists, and I think most of the Me Too movement was bringing to light this power dynamic between people in all sorts of industries. So yeah, I think that happens in the film industry a lot.
So on this note, I would also like to add here that like it's very important to know that there are rights always within the law. So in case there is anything that happens, there are criminal laws that protect people from even the slightest of there was a test laid down for outraging the modesty of women, which even I think people know this Rupan Deol Bajaj's case, wherein she was an IPS or she was harassed by KPS Gill, and it was a minor act according to people. And she also says in this video that I was fighting against the mindset and not against Mr. KPS Gill. So this was the case, and we have landmark judgments on cases where there are relatively smaller sexual offenses happening against women, especially. And right now, even in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita that has come up, they have adopted a lot of these laws, along with adding the case that Smita was mentioning. In case someone has promised employment and asked for sexual favors and they did not provide employment, it comes under criminal law. It is deemed as rape. And all of this is also not just fraud and cheating anymore. They are trying to bring in the sexual element of these offenses. So I think half the time women are not aware of the laws that they have. Like they can just go and file an FIR against somebody for misbehaving with them because they think that, okay, it's not that serious, it's not that big. And I think then they start resorting. And also, this is a note to industries or people who are running these companies or production houses, that if you do not have uh, provisions in place for PoSH, or if you're not displaying a zero tolerance policy, it doesn't matter if you have 5 people working in your production house or your company, cafe, whatever. If you do not mention a zero tolerance to sexual harassment in your workplace, tomorrow you will be at the risk of being named and shamed on the internet. And it's not like the Me Too movement has not left the people's minds. And if someone has survivors who are going through things, they are resorting to media, even when there is PoSH, sometimes even when there is PoSH compliance being done by companies, uh, even then people are resorting to these means. So having compliances in place will help you regulate it better. It doesn't mean that sexual harassment will completely stop. It might deter people from behaving that way. And in case something happens, there is more regulation that is in place, that you are in control as a person who is running the company, or as a person who is approaching people. Because internet is not solving problems. The problems are actually solved when you go to the courts, or when you go to the internal committees of a company. And big production houses often have internal committees. And if they are failing to do it, you have appeal provisions that you can choose for. Like if the internal committee is not doing justice to the case that has come forward, we can go for appeals and file complaints against those committees for not functioning properly. So sometimes naming and shaming has helped people, but sometimes it has actually backfired, because they are first asked that did you really try and resolve the issue with the legal process? If not, and if you've directly resorted to these means, then there might be defamation suits that are filed against these survivors of already they are struggling with mental health issues, and then there will be defamation suits against them. And that is what happened in the media industry, right? That's why Me Too also backfired a lot, because people started naming and shaming without really seeing if there are any legal provisions actually available for them to avail sometimes. And in those scenarios, counter cases were filed and situations went worse. But that doesn't mean that all the defamation cases are meant are honest, or all of the Me Too movement impact was negative. I'm just like focusing on like the pros and cons here, and I'd like Smita to also elaborate on this with any points that she may have. I'm just like bringing in the legal elements. So, so where can people, like you mentioned LCC, where can people from less than 10 employees go, or like, people who are working in a media house, or like working more freelance? So how can they avail any more benefits if I've missed any? Smita?
Yeah, of course. Actually, to the cases point that there will be customers who come in and writing those notes he mentioned when he started speaking, right? So to that point, I think every cafe owners and all, y'all should have some alliance with the police also. Okay, there should be a emergency number that should be given to people in case the owners of the cafes are not available at that point of time, because y'all must be working from early in the morning to late in the night, and not necessarily the senior people, a person is available in cafe. So there should be some hotline number that they can dial, okay? Because these customers, you do not know at what level they are creating a havoc for this person. So there should be some emergency number, and you should have struck an alliance with your local police who can help you, saying that, if such situation arises, then this is where we can go. And in every police, there is a women's wing. Yeah, so these wing can be approached and said that, though we are not anticipating, we're not expecting, but we are on the path of creating a safe workplace for every employee. So can we have an alliance with your, and at least in Bombay, we have seen that there is a lot of provisions for women to be taken care of. And I'm sure across India, it must be there. If you there was these toll-free numbers which can be dialed, especially if they have to take a late night cab or something, those toll-free numbers can be approached. So that is one thing. State commissions of women is another space where you can go to. Every state has a commission. There's a national commissions of women that can be approached. Okay. We also have an online method which is called SheBox, right? So online you can write, but if you need an immediate action, I think a hotline number is good. Police, of course, I told you about that. So these are some platforms which are available, and we should have at least a knowledge about it, right? And most important, what I understand, and I think both of you, Surabhi and Kasia, spoke about the people not understanding what they are going through. Okay. There is a whole lot of confusion when people feel bad and they are not sure whether they can report about it, right? Many a times the behaviors are normalized, that's how the industry is. I think unlearning of that is important, that's not how the industry is. Respect is the core, right? So I think those conversations should happen in smaller groups and then in the larger groups, saying that if you feel disrespected, if you feel uncomfortable, unwelcome, you should have a voice, right? If you don't voice it out, it will only double, triple, it will become an unmanageable space. So it is important, and y'all are somebody whom we really want to take care of, and we want to create an organization. And if it comes from owners, it comes from entrepreneurs like you, I think as I always say, it's a ripple effect, right? So that's what I wanted to table here.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice closing word to have for us, that like, we have to be the change that we create sometimes. And that is like, I can't stress enough, like, I keep yelling posh, posh everywhere. And then, like, people do think that it's not important and people do not realize the value. Like nowadays, even like, I think 2-3 years has passed that Kerala High Court had given a judgment on film industries to have posh production houses to have posh compliances in place. And the recent 2023 judgment of Supreme Court was literally scolding companies for not having compliances and guidelines in place, even though the act has been in place for more than 10 years. And now more nodal officers are being appointed and more district officers are being appointed. If any information is needed, you can also reach out to us at Kelp, because I think for the brevity of time, we wouldn't be able to cover if there are any doubts on the district offices and LCCs, but we can definitely put that up. And also, like, I think somebody has even mentioned in the chat, Savita has mentioned in the chat that small production houses can join the film associations, which will have PoSH process in place, right? There are so many associations that are formed with all of these committees in place. So it's important to be aware of these committees, especially, and also to reach out as mechanisms. And definitely the National State Commissions of Women, Human Rights Commissions, they are all really, really helpful in such situations. Recently, the Women's Commission in Goa, I heard of a case where there was a physical abuse and in an intimate relationship between two parties, and that was taken care of by the Women's Commission, and they heard the matter and they set up a quasi judicial body and resolved the issue from ground level there, and created a restraining against the guy who was becoming abusive. So, like, there are all these mechanisms available if we look for it. And I know that a lot of people have filed legitimate cases and are fighting it in the courts. So, just to say that don't lose hope. Hopefully, things are already getting better, and I hope that things will only get better from the way forward as we see, right? It can't get worse. It can only get better. And things have reached a level where there is definitely a dialogue and people are scared of this. People are definitely scared of sexual harassment in general and at workplace. So maybe things will get better. And there was also this one thing that I think in our preliminary discussions that I wanted to bring up because it was very important, that a lot of restaurants take a lot of initiatives, and there was this particular drink. I think Kes can mention that like, if you order for that drink at the bar, they will know that you're dealing with some kind of harassment and they'll intervene. So all these bystander intervention techniques, especially if you are navigating in spaces wherein, like, sometimes even shouting or bringing others to the notice of what is happening needs to be done. Like, if I am dealing with someone touching me inappropriately in a group of people, instead of staying silent, if I just like loudly ask, what are you doing? People will instantly look at them. So there are all these intervention tactics and techniques that can help. And I think self-preservation and at the same time community preservation is a way to go in these situations. If there are any questions, I think we can definitely take them, because I think a question, if there is any, I'll just have a look if there is anything related to the topic that we are discussing. And Smita, do you have any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, I think very clearly, first and foremost, and a thing that I started with, right? Every working woman is covered under the PoSH Act. Unfortunately, we think only 10 or more employees, then I have to get compliant. No. If you have a working woman, if you're dealing with women, you have to know about the PoSH law, right? Because even visitors are covered, as I mentioned, right? Even if you have all 5-7 men employees, but there will be customers, visitors who would be women. So there is no way out of not knowing about the law. So first and foremost, I think a read up about the law, what it entails, and creating an awareness within your teams, whether they are men, women. I think there is no escape. You have to ensure that you know about this law. Second is understanding of sexual harassment. As I said, it is your industry is very different from a regular corporate. So understanding what is sexual harassment, what makes people uncomfortable is important. Understanding of consent. Okay, what is actually a consent? A clear yes. A missing of no is not yes. Understanding of consent is very, very important. There is no excuse. Defining boundaries, communicating boundaries, and being sensitive about somebody else's boundaries. Another very important aspect, right? Reporting mechanisms, right? Knowing your own LC, ensuring that it is documented and kept there. There is a hotline number available for people to report. And I think Qais in our conversation was saying last time that there's an angel drink, that if you go and order for an angel drink, people know that you are in a distress and you need help. I'm not sure how many people know about it. I don't think anybody's talking about it, right? So this is something that is important. Such innovative methods should come up and about in every industry so that people know that they are taken care of. I think these are I just kind of did a quick summary of what we discussed throughout. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Smita. And I think this was a very exciting session. Hopefully, we can do more research and publish more data on how to go about this PoSH in these alternative industries, and also to strictly emphasis on the importance of trainings, because Smita mentioned trainings. It's very, very important to sensitize your staff, and it's very important to sensitize people around you, and also come across, like, if I am an independent person, come across as this person. Like, I also understand that there are actresses out there saying things like, oh, nothing happened to me because I behaved well. Like, they don't realize the amount of privilege that they come across with when they say these things. So it's very important to, like, set your own space and say that I have these rights and you cannot take those away from me. You cannot take my dignity and respect away from me for no reason. And also to emphasize that there needs to be trainings. If you're a business owner, ensure trainings and support for your staff, and clear communication on what is sexual harassment at workplace. It's very different from sexual harassment outside of workplace. So people need to understand that even calling people something, name calling, like kitchen staff was being mentioned at some point, that, like, in kitchens there is a very bad language being used sometimes because of the kind of profession it is, or saying, using abusive language. So even all of that needs to be communicated, that it's not okay. And it's not just women, men, all kinds of people, queer people, they are all accessing these spaces. So I think it needs to be much more of a clear message. Otherwise, businesses and production houses which do not follow these things, end of the day, they're not keeping up with the times, and they're setting themselves up for failure by not following all of this. So it is just sad that only a matter of time will let them know that they do not belong in this up and coming, changing, dynamic world that we live in. The future is women, the future is queer people, and the future is trans people. The future is safety for all, and it's not a space for men anymore. And more people are taking up these spaces. And if you do not accommodate people, you are going to be out of business soon. So I think that is a message that people need to take into consideration while being entrepreneurs, freelancers, or whatever. So I hope that it translates in. And thank you all for joining today's session and being here with all of us. And thank you, Qais and Surabhi. I can't thank you guys enough for bringing in your personal stories and making it so wholesome at large as a session.